Coming up on WUFT's First at 5, the July jobs report released this morning, sparking worries of a slowing labor market, the revisions to May and June's estimates that left economists stunned. Plus, two important tax-free holidays beginning today in the state of Florida, what they are and how long the savings are going to last. And the Trump administration announcing another round of tariffs, how the country's targeted and the markets are reacting. First at 5 starts right now.
First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Some relief from the heat is on the horizon for north central Florida as storms are expected to brew over the weekend. This is WUFT's First at 5. I'm Matt Montalto, and it's the start of August, which means we're closer to getting to the peak of hurricane season. Let's get right over the UF meteorologist William Maxham live in the studio, timing out the weekend storms and a look at the tropics that's been relatively quiet.
Yep, it is quiet now. Let's look quickly at the tropics. We do have some thunderstorms here, but there's nothing that's organized and looks particularly likely to develop into a storm that gets its name. But in the short term, it's about the heat again today. Heat advisory for all the interior counties. Across North Florida, we've got heat index values today again well over 100 degrees. Temperatures themselves in the mid and upper 90s, 96 Palatka and Gainesville so far today for a high, and we're feeling about 105 Gainesville, 105 High Springs, 104 Ocala. Thunderstorms, well, they're not really developing. We do have a couple of showers far eastern Marion County, but today another generally dry day, but thunderstorm chances are rising as a cold front heads our way. We'll also see a drop in temperatures with those showers moving our way. We'll talk about that coming up.
The U.S. job market has slowed substantially in July. That's according to the U.S. Labor Department job market report released earlier today. But more concerning to many economists, revisions to May and June's job numbers show far weaker growth than previously thought. The U.S. economy added 73,000 jobs in the month of July, resulting in a 0.1% increase in unemployment rate. But of greater concern, the revisions to May and June's job reports that one chief economist called, quote, stunning. May's original estimate of 144,000 added jobs was revised down to 19,000, while June's estimate of 147,000 was revised just down to 14,000. This indicates that over those 2 months, the U.S. job market added just 33,000 jobs and 250,000 less than previously estimated. CNN reports that outside of the 2020 pandemic recession, job growth is at its weakest pace since 2010. And we can now report that just hours after the job report were released, President Trump fired the Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner, Dr. Erica McIntyre, claiming that she manipulated the July job report for, quote, political purposes. Starting today, millions of Americans will begin accruing interest on their student loan plans. This comes after the Department of Education last week stopped the cancellation of student loans in Biden-era income-based repayment plans. Lee Waldman has the details.
Attention student loan borrowers enrolled in the SAVE plan. On August 1st, the Department of Education will resume charging interest on your loans.
The SAVE plan, introduced under former President Joe Biden's administration, lowers monthly payments and shortens the time it takes to receive student loan forgiveness based on enrollees' income. Now that plan and the 8 million or so borrowers who utilized it are in for some changes.
This plan has been tied up in litigation, and the Trump administration decided, without ever being forced by a court, to start interest charges for those borrowers.
Last year, federal judges in Kansas and Missouri blocked key parts of the SAVE plan. Following those courts' decisions, SAVE borrowers were placed in no interest forbearance, with payments paused and balances frozen since last summer. Today, interest will start to accrue again.
Once payments start, we expect they're going to pay about $5,000 more per year, including those interest charges, once they actually have to start making payments.
Mike Pierce, head of the Student Borrower Protection Center, says deciding what to do next is up to individuals, starting payments now or continue with forbearance. But either way, their balances will increase, causing stress for borrowers like medical resident Bronte Rumsick.
I've spent my entire 20s in school, and so now in my 30s and as a young professional, I would love to have a life. The financial walls just feel like they're crushing down around me when I thought graduating medical school was the big win.
In New York, I'm Lee Waldman reporting.
Some of the biggest expenses this time of the year for many Florida families. Back to school shopping and hurricane preparation, but starting today, the price tag is going down thanks to Florida's tax-free holidays. Florida's back-to-school tax holiday will run through the entire month of August, and now that's an annual policy. Items included in the holiday include clothing, learning aids, certain school supplies like pens or pencils, and personal computers or computer accessories. Please note that items are only eligible under a certain price. Those guidelines, which differ by category, are on your screen now. And with hurricane season expected to ramp up in August, today also marks the start of the year-round tax exemptions for many hurricane supplies. Among those included are batteries, portable generators, and life jackets. To learn more about all the hurricane kit items that are now tax-free, please scan the QR code on the screen. The items included are now tax-free year-round. One of the key worries as hurricane season continues is the safety of those detained at Alligator Alcatraz. But as Mackenzie Laporte reports, just days after admitting there was no plan, state emergency officials released one, but 27 of 33 pages are redacted.
I promise you that the hurricane guys have got the hurricane stuff covered.
Alligator Alcatraz has been up and running for nearly a month now, but concerns surrounding the state's hurricane evacuation plans continue to rise.
Between hurricanes and bad weather, that God forbid, these things are not being built up to hurricane standards. And so all it takes is one hurricane, and now you've endangered people. These are human beings.
As the demand for transparency grows right in the middle of hurricane season, Democrats at the State House also share they've been requesting these hurricane plans for weeks now.
I know that I've taken a little bit of heat in the media that the EM guy is not taking care of hurricane season. That is absolutely unequivocally false.
I reached out to the Florida Division of Emergency Management, who sent me a blurred out version of those very plans, citing Florida statute that says this document contains information that is confidential and exempt. The information the division did, however, share includes that the state's response team will maintain a continuous plan, extra staff if necessary, secure custody of all detainees during evacuations, make sure food, medical care, sanitation, and emergency services are handled. They will support detainees with legal processes and promise to protect critical detainee records.
When we have that situation, we will have to do an evacuation. And it's incumbent upon the Florida Division of Emergency Management with our law enforcement partners to be able to take care of that.
With more than half of the documents marked out, questions still remain, like where will thousands of detainees go if they are ever evacuated? Governor Ron DeSantis was in Orlando this morning holding a press conference with the Florida Highway Patrol. While touching on a variety of topics, the governor focused mainly on the issue of illegal immigration. He praised the FHP's work in aiding federal and state officials in completing over 470 operations targeting, quote, illegal aliens. The governor then turned to the future, announcing a new FHP unit that will focus solely on identifying and detaining illegal immigrants.
Now, to further combat the threat of illegal immigration, Florida Highway Patrol is establishing a new immigration unit, the Immigration Enforcement Section within the Bureau of Criminal Investigations and Intelligence to specialize in immigration enforcement.
The governor also responded to criticism over state money being used for these detention sites. He emphasized that while these facilities may be costly, the expenses will be reimbursed to Florida by the federal government. Florida state-level DOJs wrapping up their time in Gainesville today, looking into how the city is managing taxpayer money. We told you last week when Governor DeSantis made a stop in the area to launch a new department. The governor says Gainesville leaders are having neighbors shell out more than $90 million per year in unnecessary property taxes. That claim has been denied by city officials. The Florida Department of Health in Marion County wants to alert residents of green-blue algae in Lake Weir on July 28th. While no toxins were present at the time of testing, residents should be aware that algae could produce toxins at any time. To avoid the affected water, and if you have any contact with the algae, wash your skin and clothing with soap and water. When First at 5 returns, we take a look at the Trump administration's newly increased tariffs, which countries are affected, and the rates that they will face when First at 5 returns.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
The White House has announced a new set of tariffs that will take full effect next Thursday, August 7th. The Trump administration made the announcement Thursday, introducing a 10% universal tariff on countries with which the U.S. has a trade surplus. For countries that the U.S. is trade deficient with, that rate will now be 15%. The new tariffs mark a dramatic shift in the modern era U.S. trade policy, as they affect almost every country the U.S. exchanges goods and services with.
Tariffs are a tax on literally everything the American consumer is buying. When you tax those goods, you make them more expensive, and that impacts the pocketbooks of the American people.
The only major trading partners not included in the rate changes are the UK, China, and Mexico. The UK and U.S. signed a trade agreement earlier this week, while China and Mexico are currently working towards deals of their own.
Cold front is moving our way for the weekend. It's going to bring us less heat and more rain. I've got your forecast right after the break.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Now, it's been real hot this week. It's been, I think we said earlier in the week, it was been 3 straight days of 100-degree temperatures. But you said in the tease though earlier that it's gonna be cool temperatures coming.
Cooler. Okay. You know, it's still going to be hot. It is August, and this typically is a very hot time of the year, as everybody knows. But we are seeing temperatures come down over the weekend. A cold front is on the move today. Heat advisory continues until 7 o'clock. Doesn't include the coastal counties. We're not quite as hot as we were yesterday, but it has been a brutal July, and the average temperature for the month 84.1. That makes it the hottest July in over 100 years. 1900 we were at 84 degrees and just a little bit warmer than we were this year. Right now it feels like 103 Palatka, 104 Ocala, 107 our heat index in Bronson. But this weekend we're expecting cooler temperatures, not necessarily because of the cold front pushing in and delivering cold air, but just going to be a lot cloudier and stormier. And that front going to kind of sit there for a couple days, giving us some potential heavy rains into next week. Flash flooding a possibility too, higher risk a little bit north of I-10, but don't be surprised to see some flash flooding potential from thunderstorms in our area either day of the weekend. Really slow moving storms are our biggest threat. Not expecting much in the way of severe weather, though, over the weekend. 97 right now, feels like 106. Very few thunderstorms have been able to develop into the heat of the day today. Elsewhere, 92 Palatka, 92 into the Villages, and looking for thunderstorms. Well, they're pretty much absent from north central Florida. The front is still to our north. It's moving slowly. It'll get here on Saturday and boost up our rain chances. But for now, only an isolated sprinkle or two north of the Villages. Elsewhere, we are dry for now. Rain chances do come back on Saturday, but this particular model is showing a somewhat dry start to the afternoon. A few clouds. But into the evening, we'll see showers and thunderstorms increasing, and it looks like a couple of days potentially with some heavy rain all the way. Actually, Monday, we have got some heavy rain potential as well. 7-day forecast shows a long stretch of wet weather coming our way, with temperatures going to be into the lower 90s, so just a little bit cooler at the start of next week, but showers and thunderstorms possible each and every afternoon. Into next week, rain chances do come down a touch at the end of next week, but our pattern is shifting from very hot and very dry to somewhat rainy and still somewhat hot, but it is going to be a little bit less oppressively hot this weekend.
A grassroots horse show hosted a friendly competition in Newberry recently. WUFT's Maria Avlonitis went to the show and found out riders of all ages are not just horsing around, but competed for experience and prizes.
Despite the Florida heat, dozens of riders mount their horses. And when the horn blows, the pairs begin to gallop and jump. Jean Winslow started horse shows in the park 25 years ago. There are events throughout Florida year-round.
You have to have that passion when it's 12 midnight and you're still trying to get the rings ready, or it's 100 degrees and you're out there setting up the jumps.
Her love for the sport is the reason she started throwing the grassroots shows. The goal is to give riders a positive experience competing in a high-quality course before transitioning to higher stake competitions.
And they're like, well, if I can jump Miss Jean's flowers, I can jump anywhere.
The show has different levels of competition. Riders can go from a basic walk trot up to jumping 5-foot-tall fences.
A show on a hot day like today calls for a Hawaiian theme. Riders came in their best leis and even dressed up their horses and stalls.
Denise Mandy competes for the Little Pond Farm in Tallahassee. She's been riding horses for over 40 years. Each show is an opportunity to learn what she needs to work on with her horse.
Say your horse was not steering well, or you had a problem changing them from one gait to another, then you know that when you get home, that's what you need to work on.
Shannon Rodas has been judging horse shows at the national level for years. She says this show is worth clearing her schedule.
If Jean Winslow's having a horse show, and I just make sure that I'm available for him.
There are wins and setbacks. But in the midst of the work, there's also room for play. This horse show sprinkles a little bit of fun into friendly competition. Maria Avlonitis, WUFT News.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Welcome back. I'm Jordan Costagiola, and let's jump right into sports. With fall practice in full swing for Gators football, a number of players are finding inspiration from figures of the past. Edge rusher George Gums and a few of his teammates recently attended a barbecue with some former Gators, and he says it was a memorable event.
It was a lot of passion, I'd say, you know what I'm saying? Just hearing, how they played and why they played, it just gave me, more fire than I already have. We have plenty of greats in the past, and just to get their knowledge to the younger guys like me and everybody else in the program, that would be pretty good.
We are officially within 30 days of Florida kicking off the season against Long Island, and the hype is building. 6 Gators were named to award watch lists this week. That includes DJ Lagway, who, by the way, is out of a boot ahead of tomorrow's open practice. Gators soccer is back on the pitch starting this weekend. The team will host Florida Atlantic on Sunday to kick off the fall for the Gators. Then they'll travel to Tampa next weekend to take on USF. The Gators returned 17 players, and they'll look to improve on their 4-8-6 outing last season. And we'll head to the Diamond. The Rays had a turbulent game against the Yankees Thursday afternoon. And with the trade deadline looming, their 9th inning roster looked quite different from the first inning. That's because Rays speedster Jose Caballero was traded to the Yankees in the middle of the game, and he switched dugouts. On top of that, the Rays also lost some players due to injuries. Notably, all-star first baseman Jonathan Aranda will miss time after injuring his wrist in a collision. The Rays will face the Dodgers this weekend. And to wrap things up, former Gator and 4th-ranked men's tennis player Ben Shelton is in action at the Canadian Open tonight. He faces Brandon Nakashima in the round of 32. We'll take one more look at weather after the break.
Rain chances are rising over the weekend, and we stay hot and relatively stormy next week.
Thank you so much, and we'll be back here in fall with another edition of First at 5. Have a great night.